Welcome to Emotional Sobriety.
Being mentally healthy does not mean you're not on an emotional roller coaster. It's about being congruent.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking so sometimes we really have to adjust our expectations of ourselves when we're talking about going through difficult times. I have a couple of clients in particular going through some real hard times, and not surprising to me, but the idea is a lot of times, rather than lowering our expectations to be compassionate with ourselves, we raise our expectations in times of crisis.
What you're speaking to lines up with something I highlighted in Allen's book.
Mm-hmm.
Getting stuck is our signal that it's time to learn something new. The trouble we are experiencing, wherever it's showing up in our lives, is highlighting the next step in our development, the next step in our emotional maturity, the next step in our recovery. That step is the journey of emotional sobriety. So and I wanted to pick up, I know our audience, apparently Allen got a flood of appreciation and check-ins from people who listened to the episode and were very moved by it. I thought we blew by a bit quickly when you brought up that you'd had kind of a relapse or a flare-up of depression. And my partner, Maddie, listened to the episode and really loved the bit that you had shared on the episode. And she was just asking, because she takes medication and she struggles with depression. What does that mean to have a flare up or to have a relapse? And I mean, I just assume that it's there are just days when it's just tough to get up. There's days when the pull of the depression is just more severe than at other times. And yeah, I mean, you've talked about it before, and I just wanted to know is there anything about it this time that's hitting you differently, or what can you say to kind of illuminate what that struggle's like for our listeners?
Okay, it's first of all, I've never ever heard the term flare up used with depression. It almost seems oxymoronic, doesn't it? Flare up of depression. It's like it's like oh my God, it's more like a flare down. It's like I'm just.
Oh yeah, that's. I'll steal that one.
Well, tell Maddie thanks for her concern. I've been in treatment for depression since I think it's 6 years into my sobriety. It's it took me about 6 years in sobriety to bottom out with my depression, and I've been in medical treatment as well as therapy for that through the years since then. And your question is hard to answer, but it's not because I don't know it. It's hard to describe it. First of all, it's especially after you've been in recovery and been treated for depression for a long period of time. It doesn't just pop back in. It's not like a relapse, like I picked up a drink. It comes back in gradually, and it's one of the reasons that it's hard for people to know, what's what, and I don't even necessarily know, hey, is this possibly a biochemical thing with my brain needing medication change or medication switch, or is this just my thinking not being straight? I take full responsibility for the fact that medication that puts me. The way I think about it is it puts a floor under me so that, rather than treading water, I can get my feet planted someplace so that I can do the stuff that we talk about in recovery. So that's a little bit harder, but over a period of time, one of the things that shows up a lot, and Dee and I are a good example of that. Very often, when somebody is treated for depression or needs to be treated for depression, the spouses or the partners are the ones who can really give you more information. What I was doing with my medication was not doing everything it needed to do. And then when I started talking about that, Dee said, yeah, she gave me some more feedback, then said, yeah, you have been off. And some of that's about seeming depressed and having no energy and sleeping more, things like that. But other parts of it is unfortunately for the partner is irritability. When I first was treated for depression, I remember one of the first lessons I acknowledged when I began to feel better was nobody in graduate school ever told me that assholism was a symptom of depression, but it really is. And it's that irritability, that trying to keep your attention, out. That's my control shit was fueled by that. I just don't want to focus on anything inside. It's an unconscious thing. So, yeah, but and in this particular case, I'm doing a different kind of treatment for the depression. So, I think what happened was with some new options that became open through my doctor. See if this makes sense, Patrick, when I describe it. We kind of keep our guard up, we keep moving, we keep our defenses going, and then when somebody says, "Hey, maybe there's something better, there's some hope here that you haven't had before," all of a sudden I relax and realize, then I drop further into the depression, because all of a sudden I wasn't feeling like I was having to hold everything up, if that makes sense. It was like I just, I saw some new hope on the horizon for something better for me, and then I just sort of go, wow, and then I realize, that wow, I am depressed again. And one of the things my doctor said is one of the, I'm 69 years old. He said one of the things that happens is sometimes we have to change medications as we go along, but sometimes, as you get older, the depression gets worse. So we just have to keep. It's just like the psychotherapy part. If you're treated medically for this, you want a doctor who is not. I'll use my wife's terminology. She says to her clients, "I will work with you, but not on you." And I think way too often we have, especially physicians and psychiatrists who will work on us, not with us. And so you need a psychiatrist who's actually understands that the feedback system for psychiatry is, as it should be with probably everything else, but more so because you can't just run a little test on us and see what the tests say. The feedback system is listening to their patient. If my doctor wants to know how the medication is working, or how this treatment or that treatment is working, he has to get that information from me. And if you have a doctor, and I just would say, don't just to people listening, if you have a doctor you don't think really listens to you very, very well, don't burn the bridge before you find another one. But it is, if you really feel like somebody's not collaborating with you and not listening to some of the things you're saying, then it can be a hassle, especially when you're feeling depressed. But to shop around a little bit to see if you find somebody who you might work better with, because you do want somebody who's able to not just, because whether or not depression treatment is working is not an all or none thing either. It's not like, okay, now I'm not depressed. It's like, no, we're on a continuum. We're moving on to all the while. And there is such a thing, I do believe, and have been there at one point, at least one point, there is such a thing as being in remission from depression. But I think a lot of us who were treated over a long period of time are not. We don't spend our lives there. We're on that continuum, and I think of it more like, and not that I'm not saying it's the same thing, but it's analogous to people who have chronic pain conditions. It's like you just have you adjust your expectations of yourself. You get the best treatment you can, and with the emotional sobriety component, what you do is you're not sitting around waiting for it to all go away so that you can go about being emotionally sober. It's like, no, our job is to be, I always say, anybody can have a good day on a good day. It's like our job is to be, when we're talking about the emotional sobriety, our job is to be the best person we can be, regardless of what else is going on with us. Now, as you and I have talked about before, sometimes we have to adjust. We have to do well. Allen and I talk about this sometimes too. Is lower the power of lowered expectations. If you have less energy, if you have less to give, then sometimes rather than expect more of yourself, you can lower your expectations. But in my experience with that, that doesn't mean I need to lower my expectations in terms of the emphasis on each day be the best version of myself that I can be. It's like, because I do not need, and I don't think many people, I think anybody who's going on the same path I'm on would agree, is that I do not need any kind of a reason or excuse to be an asshole. I don't need to mistreat other people. Whereas I can certainly, people can say, indeed, he's done that before, say, well, it's okay, because I know you're feeling bad. I appreciate the compassion with that. But my job is to remain, respectful and kind, regardless of how I'm feeling.
Well, one thing you said, I have a couple reactions to that, but one thing you said about when the medication changed and there
Hmm.
was this seeping in of new hope about
Hmm.
what, how you might be able
Hmm.
to, you know, expand what's been possible in terms of
Right,
like
right.
overcoming the depression. And that
Yeah,
made things worse in the short
yeah.
term.
Hmm.
I would not have expected that, but I guess it makes sense, right? Because it's almost like you're walking on the tightrope and then you kind of
Hmm.
look down while you're
Yes.
walking, right? And
Yeah,
then
or yeah, I appreciate it you saying that because it's a big deal. It is a big deal, and it's hard and I think it's hard to explain. It's and it may be one of those things that, and there are some things about a lot of this stuff, but especially with depression, that what I find is that somebody who has depression, you can describe something in about 3 words, and they'll you and I've experienced that when we've talked. Oh, I got that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And the people who have not experienced actual clinical depression, they're not going to understand it, and that's okay. I mean, they don't have a basis for experiential empathy. It's like, we can have empathy without having, it's like there are certain, if I'm talking to I work with pregnant moms through the years, and it's like I make it very clear I do not have experiential empathy with them. It's like that would be the most disrespectful thing for me to ever indicate, oh, I know what you're going through, because I don't. It's like, but so then we have empathy that's based basically it's based on intellect. It's basically I'm going to listen to you. It's a value system. I'm going to listen to you and learn about what that must be like for you to go through that, so that I can have more empathy for you. And with depression, it's the same thing. It's like a lot of times, if you don't have it, it's like a lot of times I'll see couples where one person does have depression, the other one doesn't, and the unrealistic expectation, when we talk about emotional sobriety, the unrealistic expectation on the part of the person with depression is that their partner, who has not experienced it, is going to understand it the same at any level close to what somebody else is going to understand it. Just like we do as Alcoholics Anonymous and AA and stuff like that. Who's gonna understand, what that's like? The spouse who's not an addict, or the people who are in our meetings. It's like, no, that's what that's for. We want people to care about us and have empathy, but we don't. If somebody doesn't experience something, we don't need. That's an unrealistic expectation that you should know what this feels like.
yeah, I mean, I wonder, does the shame are there feelings of shame associated with your depression still after all this time working with it?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's kind of a hopeful thing and a positive thing in my experience. I was talking about that with somebody the other day, that one of the things that is different across time from when I was dealing with this, early on, decades ago, from the beginning, is that and I didn't think of it just in terms of just the word shame, but it is that, yeah, but it is that it's like that I have far less difficulty, far less intrusion from self-condemning thoughts. They're still around. I mean, hell, they've been around, I think, since I landed on the planet. But it's um, it's like it is a whole level of the stuff that is just simply not there very much. And what it means is I basically I have more of just an acceptance of what this is. This is not me being a lazy motherfucker. This is not me being, I'm a failure at recovery. I'm a failure at this. It's like it's depression. I know I've lived with it. I know what it means. I understand what it is. And so, again, like the chronic pain condition, I go like, yeah, it sucks that I have this, but I don't lose, because that's what happens in early phases with people with this, is we waste so much energy. We only have so much energy at a time, and depression zaps that energy. And then we waste what energy we have beating the holy crap out of ourselves, for something that we are in fact powerless over. It's like we're not powerless over what we can do, how we act, and what we do about it. We are powerless over about whether if we have it or not. Just like I'm power, I'm not, I'm powerless. Ultimately, it's more than I'm powerless over alcohol. I'm powerless over alcoholism, which means I don't have a choice about whether I have alcoholism. I have it. Same, and there, and by the way, I just want to make it real clear that there are people who experience depression in different storylines too. Is that everybody doesn't have depression as mine has been, where you're basically, I'm in treatment for it and recovery from it for forever, and because it's not, and that's not a defeatist attitude. That's not, some people will say, oh, you're being so negative. Go like, no, it's like it's just paying attention to what happens. If I don't have both the medical side of that treated and the psychological side, the behavioral side, all that stuff, then I'm not doing well, and it all fits into the nice. You can take a checklist of depression, and there is what it is, and like most people in AA, for instance. That I'm sure that I don't have any way of measuring this or showing this, but it's like I'm sure that the depression preceded by alcoholism. I think most all of us are at least dual diagnosed. They don't have to be diagnosed, but dual diagnosable. Most anxiety or depression or obsessive compulsive stuff, other things that people have that we were in fact medicating with alcohol. And then we do alcohol, and that's not to say that if I clear up, whatever the catalyst for the drinking was, and then I'm no longer an alcoholic, because basically in my case, I'm a good example of, well, I drank enough and went through that whole process enough for my alcoholism to have a standing all its own. My depression could disappear today, and it would not make a difference in whether or not I needed it to continue to abstain from alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of exactly what my second diagnosable issue is, but it's there. And there was something from when I was very young that drove me to, medicate my experience.
Yeah.
And this recent spate of like life changes for us on the podcast, and colliding headfirst into disappointment, life calamity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we're not immune, no matter how much we work on ourselves, and no matter how much we say the words and read the books, where there's no insurance against that kind of thing from happening. And there's no immunity from being a human being and having this stuff happen. Those expectations do seep in, though. I feel like it's inevitable that like we want to be fixed. And I think when Allen referred to it as, you're moving towards wholeness, you want to just get there, or at least I do. And that's kind of a futile effort in a way. It's about motion, and it's about momentum towards, but there's no, that's all we can do is just keep that momentum.
Having the expectation that I can't wait till I get to wholeness is like, well, that's stupid. It's like, it's like, what are the odds? Maybe it's going to happen for you. We can't predict that either, but I would say that's a really bad place and bad being defined as ineffective way of having an expectation about this. It's like, first of all, it's future oriented. And everything about what we're talking about, everything about recovery, everything about emotional sobriety is about living fully in the present moment, which is philosophy, even a sort of a metaphysical aspect of how I think about things. Is I think it's about being tuned in and expanding our awareness of our wholeness. I think it's about expanding our awareness, our wholeness of each of us as individuals, but also you expand that awareness of our consciousness as connected to each other, as connected to the rest of the planet, and on to the universe. It's like, we'll do a podcast one time and just talk about the things that I have experienced and think that would make people go like, oh my God, he's nuts. It's like, but it's no, it's just so I think
levitating and whatnot.
Yeah, haven't had that one yet. Oh, wait, no, it's not now. A fellow named Tom Campbell wrote a lot of stuff and that I've read and really like a lot. And he always comes back to the place where he just is a champion for saying we all need to be open-minded skeptics. And I love that terminology. The idea that I need to be open, because so often we call ourselves skeptics, or people call themselves skeptics, and what they really are cynics. You know, they mean, you can't convince me of anything. I like the idea of being an open-minded skeptic, which is I'm open-minded. I am skeptical. So unless I have some actual experience with something, I don't really take it in as something that is a known for me. You know, I'm much more focused on what are my knowns than what are my beliefs, because the beliefs are a lot of times what people will suggest to you. It's fine to have them, but you choose them, and they're still not knowns. And so the things we experience ourselves are knowns, and those are the things my experience put me in touch with that wholeness. It's like, and I'm not saying I've had experiences that I feel like I'm much closer to it, or I have some pretty awesome experiences with meditation and some other things where it's like, it's really a wow experience of like, wow, there's so much more here, you know, than we know. So anyway,
Well,
I went off on a tangent on that one.
I don't know that you did. I mean,
Well, I tried.
Another part that jumped out at me from, I was just brushing up on some of 12 essential insights from emotional sobriety this morning, and it's the false self grading against the true self. I feel like a lizard sheds its skin, right? Like the false self, you know, we replace the former false self with the new false self, which, yes, you know, which our inner truth continues to grade against.
That's right. And how do you like my new outfit? It's
yeah, like, yeah. And I'm just so grateful for my physical sobriety, and I, you know, hope to continue with that one day at a time. But
you are continuing with that.
I am yes, I am continuing, and that offers the opportunity for that grading and grinding, and that, like, you know, I have the capacity to be aware of when, you know, that my true self is not being serviced. And you know, not to tell tales out of school or anything, and we, you know, won't go too deep into it without Allen present, but I'd imagine a divorce or a breakup, you know, separation from somebody that you have such a deep connection to, is like, that's the ultimate kind of like, well, there's my former self that is, you know, perishing in a way, the new self being born. And I just, like, without having been through that, you know, anything near on the level of what he's walking through right now. I mean, I feel like I've had that, you know, times in my life where, you know, I didn't know who I was anymore, because the way that I've been defining myself was purely through this connection to the other person, through the shared life with somebody. And I don't know, I'm just like, I'm in a little less tumultuous of a point in my life, I guess, right now. So I still have, you know, the nagging fears, and, you know, I second guess myself quite a bit about, like, am I doing this all wrong? You know, could I be heading for the chasm? And I'm just not fully aware of it. I have a little bit of time. I have a little pocket of stability. I think it's valuable for us to be doing the show and in touch with, you know, some of these principles at a time when shit's just haywire in a lot of ways.
Right. Well, it's a couple of things. One, I want to say this to you, but I'm going to say this to also so other people listening can do this. It's because I've struggled with this through the years myself. And I think anybody who's aware enough what's going to is, I don't know how to stop the part of our heads that does comparisons, so I mean that I don't work on that. But beware of buying into comparisons of people's pain and struggle, because it doesn't work. That's all I can say. It's like, there's always somebody who has something much worse than us. It's like, you know, I mean, my joke about that is to say, if we listen to that voice in our head that says that, you shouldn't feel this bad about this because so-and-so has this so much worse. Well, if you take that to its logical conclusion, there's only one guy on the planet who has a right to feel anything, and he's the guy who has it the absolute worst. You know, if the one guy is saying, oh my, somebody just cut off my right arm, and then the other guy says, well, I lost both of my arms. You go like, okay, well, you no longer have a right to feel bad about that. It's like, well, that's bullshit, because there's actually a chapter in Embracing Fear about this that I wrote that's about me dealing with having to do that as a therapist, dealing with people who had just horrendous, abusive, traumatic histories and backgrounds and stuff like that. And I'd been at that point through a lot of therapy, dealing with my dysfunctional upbringing, my dysfunctional family, and all this other stuff, but nothing like a lot of the people I was working with. And so I was having to find a way to put that into perspective. Why, how do I have a right to have experienced all of these difficult feelings and deep hurtful things when I have never experienced this other stuff? And I tell you what, it is that I think that's well handled from what I remember in the book, but it's a bizarre experience I had with it, because I would have to go back and look at the book to tell you how I actually found some resolution with that. It's like, because I don't even remember what I wrote in the book about it. It was such a almost a surreal experience of trying to figure that out. But ultimately, I do know I can't show my work as I'm sitting here talking, like if we're talking about math, I can't show my work, but I can tell you what the answer is. The answer is, don't use comparisons. It's like, everybody's pain is their pain. And it's like, and the pain we experience as human beings is the same pain. So we need to what we need to do is not focus so much on comparing circumstances. And we need to listen to people's pain. We need to listen to people's feelings. We need to listen to our feelings, and we need to listen to the needs that are beneath those feelings. Because what's happening when we're hurting is our needs are not being met. And that's what the essence of this is.
Well, if for nothing else, I think, like, last week, the show served as like a reaching out between us to let this pain be heard, and just kind of pour in the storm.
Well, the other piece I wanted to say too is because that, I know I'm familiar with that, and a lot of people know that part that I hear coming from you sometimes, that's I want to get there. It's like, and I know that intellectually you get the journey, not a destination. It's part of the process and being in the present moment. But that, knowing that stuff intellectually and getting that integrated is two different things. When something dire happens in our lives, it's not, I'm not saying part of what we do is we do what Allen was talking about last time, is you use that as an opportunity to learn more about yourself, take more responsibility for yourself, see what you're missing and all that stuff. But all of that, I almost feel like I almost want to kind of laugh at myself when I say this, because it sounds so corny, but it's like, these things are opportunities for us to do whatever we're going to do next. These are opportunities to learn things. And it's like, the harder thing to do is to see them as opportunities to learn things when they're really serious, bad things, like dealing with a traumatic divorce, or dealing with relapse of depression, dealing with a diagnosis of cancer, it's like, okay, well, because the world I grew up in, the way we handle that stuff is all of that stuff. All those wonderful principles about how to live your life and how to be spiritual and connected and all that stuff work until something bad happens. And then really, without, it's not spoken, but there's a thing there that says all bets are off. Then everybody can just act like a fucking whatever they want to do, and it's like everybody's supposed to just understand. And it's like, that's not what we want. That's not what you want. That's not what I want. I want to know, when the bad stuff happens, I'm still stepping up.
Yeah, well, contrary to what I'm about to say, my dad is a very nice man, but the best he had when faced with, depressed people and whatnot when I was growing up is, get up, you piece of shit. That's basically the sum of, like,
what he didn't know is he was saying the same thing to us that we were saying to ourselves.
Yeah. He filled in the blank.
Really
right
That's
there.
what we're saying. Why does that bother us if somebody has that attitude toward it? Well, it's because I have that attitude toward myself.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a good emotional sobriety piece. He's not the one causing the problem. He's simply shining the light on the fact that there's a part of me that agrees with him.
Yeah,
you
he's in
know?
collaboration with the scary
Yeah,
voice in our
yeah,
head.
he's
Yeah.
just helping out. Yeah.
Well,
No, and people don't understand that stuff sometimes, and it's like, and you know, and I mean, we hate uncertainty. This is one of the things I've certainly have learned from working with the fear stuff through the years. We hate uncertainty, and so what our unconscious mind will do is it will take us to a place of certainty. It's like, so the easier thing to do is just to judge people as lazy pieces of shit rather than actually say, man, I don't understand anything about that. You know?
it's yeah, and I have some of the same difficulty, I think, and but I think I'm much more aware of it than my dad,
Mm.
and because I'm in recovery and because of all I've been through, I'm coming to understand the importance of really staying with these things, but it can be just very difficult to stop and slow down and to walk with somebody when they're in this dark,
Yep.
painful cave, and
Yep.
that can be what it's like with Maddie sometimes when she is suffering from depression.
Hmm.
And I used to do the wrong thing, which is like, well, here's A, B, and C, and aren't these lovely,
Yep.
lovely things that you should focus on to feel better?
Hmm.
And Alan actually was a big help to me when he said, no, you have to be with somebody where they're suffering, and you need to hear them and take that in, and like,
Right.
and
Well,
yeah.
and men, and I think, and this is a generalization, but I think it's true in a lot of cases. Our gender is really not good at getting that is really doing something powerful to listen and to be there, and not, because we do have that part of us that says, I need, it's about our own self-esteem. It's like, I want to help, and it's like, and for me, for the longest time, I didn't actually understand at all that I was helping if I was just keeping my mouth shut and listening and being there. We want our spouses to feel better because we'll feel better. That coexists with the fact that we hurt for them. If you haven't read it, one of the things I'm rereading right now is Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication. If you've never read this book, I mean, it's about a lot of things, but and his work is just damn amazing through what he's done and through the years. But just in terms of what you just described, just in terms of the power of being there, listening empathically to somebody and understanding their needs and their feelings, in terms of communication, he demonstrates and has wonderful stories about how powerful that being that way is.
You could have asked me at early points in my life, would you go back? Would you relive that so you could do it differently? And I do not have that desire anymore. I don't want to
Right.
redo any of it. And I count my hard knocks as kind of like essential parts of who I am today.
Absolutely. That's
And
beautiful.
but like that's something that's certainly changed with me, because I saw mistakes that I'd made before as like, wow, like that fucked me up in a way that like I just can't reconcile, and I don't accept it. I don't accept that this path diverged in the woods, and but yeah, I part of what we're doing here, I think, is just like absorbing all that.
Well, we have Nathaniel Brandon, and our version of Nathaniel Brandon is Roger Andes, and we have him. I do. Yeah, I think you get this too. It's like, I mean, my God, how it's been a whole different level of appreciation for what acceptance is. It's like about that, the idea, because that's what you're describing. I accept this. It's like I couldn't reconcile. It's like, well, nobody's asking you if you can reconcile. You either accept it or you don't. It's like this is what it was, and I love that. I don't know how to explain it. It's bizarre, because if I tell about how I hurt people in the past, you say, well, if we could take you back, would you like to go back and change that? And I go like, no. It's like, oh, well, you're okay. It's like, I don't, that's how I got here. That's what I oh, my old thought is just, this is how I got here. It's like, if I went back and did everything right in my first marriage, what I think about that, this goes back into more metaphysical thinking, then that's a parallel life that's going on someplace else, man. It's like I hope they're happy.
Yeah, good for
And
that. Good for that guy.
I hope I did a lot better at that night. And I hope that's good. But that's not this life, and this life is where it is, and this is my job. My job is to be a good human being now.
So many times when we talk, Thom, and you're walking me through these things, I just think you must be a really good therapist.
Well, thank you. I hope so.
People going to therapy are in some form of distress. That's why they've come.
Mm-hmm.
You're the right person to talk to get into a space where, where you feel safe and you can kind of walk through some of this really tough stuff. You mentioned you have the 2 therapy rooms where you're at. Does that mean you're doing in person and not just Zooms?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been back at the office while we were doing the renovation on the office. There was one room in the front of the office suite that my partner I was there with my partner for 28 years. And he and I were our office spouses for that long, and but he's retired, and so that his room was just a storage space. But when we had the flood damage, that was the only room that wasn't touched. So I moved. I always need motivation to get things done, so I cleared that room out and made that the therapy room. And now I've spread out through the whole suite, and it's been inspiring too to redo my therapy room, my main therapy room that I've been in for over 30 years. It's like so it's I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I love working with. I'm really good. I love doing the remote stuff. I was doing remote stuff before the pandemic a lot because of my books. Because I would hear from a lot of work I do would be with people who were readers of my books and who contacted me about some stuff in the books and wanted to work through some stuff. And so, but I love the fact that everybody now is cool with doing remote sessions when that's the best way to do it. And so I like the mix of it. So I love that. And I haven't done them in a long time, but I love doing group therapy and doing the new office. I even think, man, maybe I should go back to doing groups because they're fun. But I tell you, the other piece about that is disappointing is now because of the online stuff, it's like our reach is so much broader. It's like when I think about putting together a group, I mean, think about 8 people I want to put in a group. 4 of them don't even live, in the United States, and one of them lives, in Europe. It seems it's weird that you go like, oh man, we just got to work out of just this Nashville area. So
yeah, well, I just made guy from South Africa in one of my other groups, and I thought that was so cool. It was late at night for us California people, but for him it was like early in the morning, and I would have not come by this opportunity were it not for a horrible pandemic. So
it's the upside. I am actually doing one group online now. It's like I'm doing a Zoom group, meets we don't meet every week. We meet once a month. And so it's also getting me fired up about groups. So if anybody listening is interested in doing some online groups or something like that, let me know. I'm open to it these days.
All right. Well, we might get that ball rolling, and I might be participating too. So
all right, come on. Even Patrick.
Well, it's just our time away is kind of like deepened my appreciation for our ability to be able to do this and to share this kind of stuff with our audience. And we hope to keep it coming. And next week we should have Alan Berger with us again. So we can all look forward to that.
Absolutely.
Happy Memorial Day.
You too.
Tend your life, tend your myth. Cultivate your narrative with whomever you're with. Then with glass in hand and children on one knee, bring some stories, bring your stories back to me. It ain't a crime to be a human. Never be ashamed to be yourself. Rest assured that whatever you're doing will entertain me like nobody else. So here's to us, my old friends, until it's time to drink the wine and break the bread again. With glass in hand and children on one knee, bring some stories, bring your stories back to me.